Greetings, everyone. This is John Contreras, and you are listening to my program, Greek News on Demand. Greek News on Demand. This show is based off of my Greek News website, GreekNewsOnDemand.com. That is one word, GreekNewsOnDemand.com. We publish mostly in Greek, but we also publish a lot of key articles in English. We have an English section of our website. So if you go to the homepage of GreekNewsOnDemand.com, there you'll find English articles in the above bar, and you'll be able to browse through them and find a lot of key articles on the Greek economic crisis, on Greek history, and so on and so forth, so that you get an education, let's say, for example, on who Greece is, what they've offered to the world, why they're important, why they affect us, why the Greek economic crisis is important, why it affects the whole world economic crisis, why has the Greek economic crisis been at the forefront of world news for the past 7 years at least, and all that good stuff. And it's very important, ladies and gentlemen, that we get informed about what happens in Greece, because the Greek people did offer pretty much everything to Western civilization. So I think it's really important for us to show solidarity with Greece, to learn about, why their beautiful nation has been destroyed literally within about 7 to 8 years now, roughly, and what we can do to help them by first getting the truth out about this whole Greek economic crisis, which is nothing more than one big fraud. And that is pretty much what I specialize in as a Greek journalist. My name is John Contreras. Like I said, if you want to learn more about me on my personal website, you can go to johncontreras.com. That is spelled JOHNKOUN as in Nancy, T as in Tom, OURIS.com. And there, basically, you can find out about the work that I do as a Greek journalist. I started off with CNN back in December of 2008 when I got a gig with them covering the then riots that were going on with the death of a young individual at the hands of the police. This was exactly 1 year before the official, quote-unquote, Greek economic crisis. But back then, I basically predicted on CNN that Greece was already in a crisis phase because of all that was going on, both there and, of course, with the world economy. And I called upon pretty much everyone to help and support Greece. My predictions pretty much came true because a year later, Greece really did enter into a major economic crisis that has been going on ever since. So basically, I appear on Greek TV, on Greek radio. I'm very well known in Greek communities, both here in the United States and in Greece. and I cooperate with some of the best Greek journalists. My information comes from very, very credible, reputable sources, from Greek government, Greek intelligence. So I have a lot to offer with regards to Greece. I have 2 books also, if you're interested in learning all about this. They're in English, so don't worry. The first one is Hellenic Crisis by John Contouris. Hellenic Crisis by John Contouris. And you can find that on Amazon Kindle. It's only $10, and I use that to basically support and fund what I do. Because even though I appear on Greek TV and radio, I don't get paid for it. Because Greeks right now don't have money for obvious reasons. In that book, you're going to learn a lot about the Greek economic crisis, all the details, everything pretty much you need to know in order to understand what took place and understand that this was all predicated on a false debt, 400-something billion, and a false deficit for the Greek people, 15.4% of the gross national product. And it all had to be made up by both Greek officials and the IMF to screw the Greek people, and this is used as a pretext by which to get control of the Greek people, their resources, their sovereignty, and of course their destiny. And these dark, sinister forces are connected to the New World Order. They care nothing about Greece and the amazing, wonderful Greek culture, our Greek Orthodox Christian faith. The only thing they care about is stealing all our secrets, becoming more powerful in the world, which is what they've done over the past several hundred years at least, starting with the fall of the great Christian Greek Byzantine Empire. And in the process, what they want to do is do away with us Greeks, because they don't like us, because we are the light of the world. For example, during the whole Greek Christian Byzantine Empire, which lasted 1,100 years, we were the moral preserving force in the world. We're the ones that bring development, okay, culturally, spiritually, linguistically, to many, many nations around the world. I mean, we civilized, for example, the Russians. We gave them Greek Orthodoxy. We gave them their alphabet. We did a lot for them. We helped develop their civilization, the Rus, back in the 9th century, AD. So that is why the Russians, the Romanians, and all these different groups for hundreds of years would first call themselves, let's say, for example, in the case of the Russians, they would call themselves Greek Russian Orthodox. It wasn't just Russian Orthodox, it was Greek Russian Orthodox, okay? So over the past decades, a lot of these different European Christian ethnic groups have attempted to autonomize themselves by divesting themselves of their of the fact that they took orthodoxy and, of course, their own civilization from the Greeks by removing that Greek out of their title. So the Russians today, instead of saying Greek Russian Orthodox, they just say Russian Orthodox, which is just utter insanity, because if it wasn't for the Greeks, they wouldn't have anything. We helped civilize the Germans, the vile, disgusting Germans of today. Many of them are vile, evil, disgusting people. That is a fact, okay? When you have Germans pushing, ladies and gentlemen, for the complete liberalization of society, when you have Germans accepting all the hordes of illegal immigrants, okay, into their country, when you have tons of Germans that are for pedophilia, that are for bestiality, just like, of course, the people in Holland and other European countries, when you have all these freaks rejecting normality, rejecting their Christian roots, rejecting the fact that they would not have a civilization if it wasn't for us Greeks, it's like, dude, what's up with that? What do you expect? It's like, this is utter insanity. It was back in the 12th century AD, whereupon the barbarian German king went to the Greek Christian Byzantine Empire in Constantinople and asked that they would give the king's daughter in marriage to his son. And so the Byzantine king looked at him and his entourage and said, "You're a bunch of filthy cannibals. What do we want to have to do with you?" He says, "If you want to have anything to do with us, first you must become Christians, then you got to clean up your act." And, and the story goes on that later on there was this huge feast between the Byzantines and, of course, the barbarous Germans. And the Germans were eating with their hands and eating like filthy slobs. And the Byzantines looked at them like, "You're a bunch of filthy slobs. Clean up your act. We're not going to have anything to do with you until you clean up your act." And up until then, ladies and gentlemen, the Germans were freaking cannibals. Okay? That is a fact. They were cannibals. So these freaks today have reverted back to their pagan roots, and they have the audacity to shake their finger at the Greek people, at the divine Greek people, okay, who received a divine calling by God to enlighten and to save the world, to enlighten the world of the Greek culture and to save the world in the name of Jesus Christ. Just look at, what's going on around this world and ask yourself, is this what's beneficial for us? Just look what's happened in the world the past 100 years, how the world has turned away from its love and its desire for what's normal, what's good, what's wholesome, what's right. The whole world, ladies and gentlemen, the whole European world thrived and flourished because of us Christian Byzantines. End of story. We gave them culture. I'm talking about all of Europe. We gave them religion. We gave them language. Every single language out there, except for the Asians and the Persian language and Armenian, are subsets of the Greek language. End of story. The whole German language is founded on the Greek language. So, in the past 100 years, you see the world diving into the lap of the New World Order, doing away with its Christian roots, doing away with the love of the Greek culture, for the classics, for ancient Greek, for the writings of the Greek philosophers, for all the great works of Byzantine scholars and so on and so forth. And you see it plunge headlong into the abyss, basically, of the New World Order. Okay? Are you going to tell me that all this quote-unquote cultural development and societal engineering, quote-unquote, okay, like all this tranny filth that we see lately, you're going to tell me that is normal? You're going to tell me that is a sign of a developed and progressive society? Don't you know all those terms come straight from the playbook of the New World Order to destroy humanity by starting first with the unit of the family, by destroying man's sexuality, his identity, both for, man and woman? The same forces that destroyed this great Christian Greek Byzantine Empire are the same forces that are destroying the rest of the Western world today and are eradicating every last vestige of Christianity from the earth. Don't you know that that's what their whole playbook is? I mean, for people that aren't Christian, that don't believe in the Bible and things of that sort, don't you understand that the main goal of the Illuminati was to destroy Christian society? Does that mean anything to you? Don't you know that it was the Illuminati's goal to get people like you to doubt Christianity, to doubt God, to doubt the triune God, to doubt the Bible? Don't you know all of this relativism crap that has been propagated in the universities for decades now? Don't you know that was in other words, to get people to doubt everything in Christianity? Don't you know that was part of their playbook? Are you going along with their playbook? Do you believe in what the Illuminati believes? I mean, that is a serious question that everyone's going to have to be confronted with. Because that is the whole crux of the matter. There's a lot of confusion today about all this stuff because you have grown up in a confused environment for decades now. I have. But the one thing that separates people like me from people like you is the fact that I've done my research since day one, for years now, over 20 years about all this stuff, and that's why I have no doubt. So if you want to learn all the truth, get my book, Your Academic Guide to the Greek Language, Culture, and Civilization by John Gutierrez, and there you'll learn the truth about Christianity. Okay? You'll learn how the Jews' goal was to get everyone to believe in their version of Christianity and not in the true version of Christianity, which is the Hellenic, the Greek version of Christianity. Does it mean anything to you, the fact that an ancient Greek figure by the name of Hermes the Trismegistus, Google him, look him up, who lived 10,000 years, okay, roughly, they say, before Christ, who was in Egypt, who taught all the elites in Egypt, okay, like Isis and Osiris, who was recognized by fields, by scholars, by academics all over the world for hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years, including by the church fathers, of course. Don't you know that this individual created theurgy, alchemy, all these, like, proto-sciences, okay? He's even recognized by the occult, okay? Don't you know that it was this guy who was like a demigod, whose writings have been preserved throughout the ages? Don't you know that it was him who thousands and thousands of years before Abraham or the Jews ever appeared on the scene said that there is only one true God who created heaven and earth. He has a son and he has a spirit, and that he formed man from the ground with his breath? Does that sound familiar to you? Gee, where have I read that before? Okay? Here you have Hermes the Trismegistus giving us, okay, a proto-form of theology thousands of years before Jews appeared on the scene with Abraham. Okay? So, no one can refute this, ladies and gentlemen. No one. I mean, you also have the writings of the, of major ancient Greek figures, like Apollo, okay, who was a real ancient Greek figure. Aristotle, Socrates, Plato, the Sibyllines, in their Sibylline prophecies, you have them all clearly 100% predicting through their own writings the life, the coming, the first coming, the life, the death, the resurrection, and the second coming of none other than Jesus Christ himself. Yes, you heard that correctly. The ancient Greeks predicted Christ's coming into the world, etc., etc. If you get my book, Your Academic Guide to the Greek Language, Culture, and Civilization, you can learn all the truth about it. We have ancient manuscripts from some of the best scholars out there, including Greeks, that have verified all of this for us, ladies and gentlemen. This is the stuff they don't want you to know. And that's why they've got you all confused about life, about the world, about your sexuality, about whether we should legalize gay marriage, about whether we should have tranny bathrooms or not. My God, wake up. Don't you understand that, and you understand this, I understand this, we all understand this innately, that something's wrong with this world, that there's a powerful, sinister force that is causing us all to go along with these societal changes that make no sense, that are abominable, and that are to the detriment of the unit of the family. Do you realize if you destroy the family, you destroy society? Does that make sense to anyone? So, if it does, then why the hell are you not standing up and speaking out? Say you don't believe in this stuff. Say you don't believe in God. But you know damn well that what I'm saying overall is the truth. Okay? People cannot get away from the fact, ladies and gentlemen, that the Bible is the infallible Word of God. And I'll do other shows on this to get more into this. I mean, for example, in the Flat Earth movement, you have all these people, like, saying how, yeah, the world is flat and this and that, but the Bible doesn't explain it to us. And the Bible is not, the source of authority on the truth of the flat earth and this and that, and blah, blah, blah. Okay? And then they like to say stuff, don't you know that, the whole world believed the world was flat up until about 500 years ago. Right. So what I tell them is that when they mention that the whole world believed that the world was flat up until 500 years ago, they're basing that off of the fact that all of Christian Europe, okay, as well as the ancient world predating Christianity, but all of Christian Europe believed that the earth was flat. So when they say that, in effect, what they're doing is causing themselves by default to agree with all of that period of Christianity. To agree with all the Christian nations who pretty much up until that point believed the world was flat, according to the Bible. So unbeknownst to themselves, or really, they know what they're saying. They know subconsciously that they're actually agreeing with Christian Europe on that point. And in effect, agreeing with the Bible. But they don't want to admit that. Because they too have been brainwashed, okay, by all this New World Order propaganda that, again, Christianity is all a farce, the Bible's not real, and this and that, blah, blah, blah. Until people wake up and realize all of this, they're never going to fully wake up to what the New World Order is doing to our society. End of story. You have all these ding-dongs out there who like to expose the New World Order, yet they never talk about this stuff. They never talk about the fact that the real onset of the New World Order, according to the best New World Order scholars, like Ezra Pound, Eustace Mullins, that the onset started with the fall of the great Christian Greek Byzantine Empire. You never hear people talk about this because they don't know, because they're ignorant. They're a bunch of ignoramuses that like to spew their stupidity and say, all religion's evil, including Christianity, it's part of the New World Order. No, dum-dum. The New World Order started with the fall of Christianity, of real true Christianity as is expressed through Greek Christian orthodoxy. End of story. When the Greek Christian Byzantine Empire fell in 1453, the whole world began to fall into the lap of sinister, dark, evil, Jewish, Kabbalistic Europe. Because it was the Jews, ladies and gentlemen, that were behind all this. The Jews from day one were working to destroy Christ and his people. Don't you understand? It was the Jews that created the Vatican. It was the Jews that created the schism in 1054. Well, all you need to do is just read the article, How the Babylonian Jewish Kabbalah Judaized Christendom. And you'll see that the Jews were always trying to destroy Christianity. Why? Because Christ is our enemy. They name him by name in their religious books, like the Talmud. They say he's a whore, he's a bastard, he's a bastard and his mother Mary is a whore. I mean, they say even worse things than that. Okay? And not only that, but in the Talmud, they also mention the Greek people by name. Gee, isn't that interesting? They mention the Greek people by name. The Greek people? Yes, they do. Why? Because, again, the Greek Christian Byzantine Empire was the moral preserving force in the world at that time. And if it wasn't for us Greeks, the whole world would have already plunged into Jewish tyranny, ladies and gentlemen. It was Eustace Mullins in his book, Mullins' New History of the Jews, that spoke about all this. Eustace Mullins was the greatest New World Order writer ever, ladies and gentlemen. 10 years ago, members of my family went to go visit him, and he ended up doing a lot of interviews with them. Not a lot. It was an extended interview with them over a period of like 3-4 days. And then he remained in correspondence with them, and he ended up giving them the rights to all of his work. So in effect, okay, my family and I are the successors of Eustace Mullins. So, God willing, I will be coming out with a documentary on all this very, very soon. Okay? Because I've had to pressure these members of my family to give me the rights to this work. It's a long story because they are too afraid to basically release the information for obvious reasons. Because if you take over a work like this, you're putting your neck on the line for the truth. Eustace Mullins was the greatest New World Order writer ever, ladies and gentlemen. So, but if you read his book, Mullen's New History of the Jews, you'll find out that the reason why the Greek Christian Byzantine Empire lasted so long is because they kept Jewish power and influence out of it. That's why. But on the other hand, you have the West, you have the other part of Christendom, the Catholic Church, okay, deteriorating, falling into the lap of the Jews already in the 6th century because they sold out. And that's why eventually we had a schism with them in 1054, but it was the Jews that were behind this because they did not want the West and the East to unite to become an even more powerful force in the world. Because, as you may know, the West and the East had a lot of friction up until that point, but then we split in 1054. Okay? The East from the West, the Catholic Church from the Orthodox Church. So, the Kabbalists allied with the papacy to destabilize the Byzantine Church with, of course, their long-standing principle of divide and conquer, divide and rule. So before I get into my major news item, which is very, very major, ladies and gentlemen, it has to do with Lucas Papademos. Lucas Papademos, one of the biggest agents of the Rothschilds, who is a big banker. He's one of the biggest agents of the Rothschilds in Greece, who is a big banker, okay? He's worked for, actually, the Federal Reserve Bank here in the United States, believe it or not. He's the former Prime Minister of Greece. He was sort of a temporary Prime Minister in a transition period in 2012, whereupon Greece was going through a major transition and change with regards to their bailout program with Europe. It's a long story, but I'm going to read you an excerpt from my book about this in a bit. This gentleman, ladies and gentlemen, the other day, they say, was in his armored Mercedes car, driving somewhere in Athens, and somehow a bomb exploded, and he was injured. Okay? So it's huge news right now. It's all over the news in Greece. So I'm going to get into that because it's big. It means a lot. But I just think it's a false flag. Why do I think it's a false flag? Well, stay tuned here and you'll find out. So, getting back into a little bit of the history of how, of course, the Jews influenced Christianity, and of course, all of Western society up until today. Read the article, How the Babylonian Kabbalah Judaized Christendom, and you'll find out the reason why the world is in the situation it is to this day, ladies and gentlemen. It dates back that far. Yes, you heard that correctly. In 1054, you have the Eastern Orthodox Schism, okay? The Jews were behind that. They played a huge role in manipulating the whole circumstance because they never wanted both sides of Christendom to unite. Before they were. For 1,000 years, pretty much, they were. But when they split, that's when problems begin to be created in Europe. Okay, and yeah, it took about 1,000 years for the world to get to the situation it is in to this day due to that split. In 1066, the Kabbalist sponsor, Norman, okay, Norman, who was a Guelph, to conquer England, okay? I'm trying to remember his first name. Study up on that issue. There you're going to find out how, at that time, the Jews created their form of law, which is based off of business, which is based off of trade, which is based off of money. Okay, there at that time they were able to create a system of law that was basically based on a business model, and that is why to this day the Western world has something called the Universal Commercial Code. In other words, our legal system is based off of a business code, ladies and gentlemen. And that is why all of our governments today operate as, not governments, but as private corporations. It was Norman the Conqueror at that time who helped the Jews develop this system in England. And that's not me saying this. These are major law universities saying this, like Georgetown University in 1987 with a huge major study on this, and that was Jews who created this study, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? Just think about what I'm telling you right now. And not only that, it was Norman the Conqueror who got England at that time to turn against the Byzantine Empire. He created strife between the great kingdom there in England with the Greek Christian Byzantine Empire, so we wouldn't be united. Well, guess who was behind all that? The Jews. Okay? In 1095, the Kabbalists, Jews, arranged the First Crusade to take Jerusalem from Islam. Okay? In 1240, the Mongol invasion drives the Khazar Jew kingdom west into Europe. Okay? In 1270, the Zohar, the Kabbalistic commentary on Jewish Talmud, which, is, their main system of religion today, is basically codified, where they say, for example, evil equals good. Okay? Where they teach you that there's no such thing as evil. Okay? That's where all this relativism crap was created at that time, ladies and gentlemen. In 1290, the Edict of King Edward expels the Jews from England forever. Did you know for 300 years the Jews were not allowed back in England from that point? Yes, that is a major historical fact. Why? Because of all their crimes. For obvious reasons. In 1478, the Marrano crypto-Jew Torquemada leads the Inquisition. In 1492, Catholic Spain ejects the Jews and their Moorish agitators, M-O-O-R-I-S-H. Gee, why is that? Because of their crimes, because of their human sacrifice. Don't you know that? Don't you understand this? And people think, oh, they did such evil to the Jews back then. Really? Or maybe it was the exact opposite, and that is precisely the reason why they kicked them the hell out of their country. Okay? Everyone must know the true history behind this. Today, I mean. Both Jews and non-Jews. This truth must come out, ladies and gentlemen, if we are to save our own society, because the Jews have wiped all this from the history books. Do you understand this? How important this is? Does that mean anything to anyone? The fact that they have manipulated our historical books on purpose to hide their long history of crimes as a people? As a demonic people? Do you know that the Jews believe that they are a serpent people and that their Messiah is a serpent in the abyss and they're waiting for him to come out of the abyss to save them, to make them chiefs of the whole world, to give them the power over all the Goyim, to dominate us, to enslave us, and those who resist they will destroy? Do you know that that is embedded in the Jewish religion of today, and that's what they believe? Read the book The Destroyer by Tex Mars. Also read the book The New History, not The New History, Holy Serpent of the Jews, Holy Serpent of the Jews, also written by Tex Mars. And there you'll learn all the truth. Everyone knows who Tex Mars is. He's a top Christian author and writer. Last year, I was able to go visit him in Austin, Texas, and do an exclusive interview with him for Greek TV. That interview you can find on the homepage of our news blog, GreekNewsOnDemand.com. That is GreekNewsOnDemand.com. Just go there right now, and on the right column of the site, you'll be able to see that interview. It's both in Greek and in English. So everyone cries about the Inquisitions, oh, the poor Jews, yet they really have no clue why they took place. In 1517, Protestant Reformation splits, Christendom. The Kabbalists foment the Protestant schism to destabilize Christendom, again with the principle of divide and conquer. In 1517, the Marrano crypto-Jews from the Alumbrados in Spain invent the Jesuit society to co-opt the papacy in Rome. Okay? The Jesuits, ladies and gentlemen, are crypto-Jews. Their founder, Ignatius Loyola, was a crypto-Jew. Okay? They are the guys that pull the strings of the Catholic Church behind the scenes. Now, since I mentioned Martin Luther woke up to what the Jews were doing to Christianity, okay? Because he went and studied Greek Orthodoxy. He sent his own followers to Constantinople to study Orthodoxy under the Greeks. Hello. In his own words, he said that the Greek church is the best model of the church. Also, very powerful Jewish organizations like the Anti-Defamation League have admitted over the years that their descendants put to death Martin Luther because he had exposed what they were doing to Christianity back then. Yes, you heard that correctly. The Jews openly admit this. They make no bones about it. In 1540, papacy in crisis sanctions the Jesuit order. Okay? Let's go down a little bit. Protestant schism, anti-papal West. 1530, Rosicrucian initiate Martin Luther. Okay? Deals with the Lutheran Church. 1534, predestination heresy. Crypto-Jew lawyer John Calvin. Martin Luther, no doubt, was a Rosicrucian, but he woke up, though, okay? And he turned against, basically, the Jews and secret societies at that time, from what the evidence shows. Anyway, it's a long discussion. So, in 1453, we have the fall of Constantinople, okay? And then you have Guelph Lombardy bankers from Venice and Genoa that helped to pit the Ottoman Empire at that time against the Byzantine Empire. So yeah, the Venetians played a huge role in the fall of the Christian Empire, as I said previously. In 1547, you have the rebirth of the Roman Empire. You have the rebirth, not necessarily of the Roman Empire, but you have the resurgence of the Greek Christian Byzantine Empire. Take place at that time in 1547, where Constantinople survivors resurrect Orthodox Byzantine culture in Moscow. And at that time, the Russians took over the Byzantine Empire for us Greeks because at that time we were under the control of the Ottoman Empire. And we were under the control of the Ottoman Empire for about 400 years, ladies and gentlemen. 400 frickin' years, man. So the Roman Empire, you have to understand, was both the East and the West. Okay? For over 1,000 years. Okay? And, there was a schism in 1054 when both the East and the West split. We should have stayed together because we could have maintained our force in the world, but unfortunately, the Vatican was already influenced by the Jews and was corrupting Catholicism, and that wasn't going to happen at that time. Martin Luther's goal was actually to get the Catholic Church to repent and unite again with the East, believe it or not. And he did not want the church to be splintered, ladies and gentlemen, to these thousands and thousands of different little Protestant denominations that we have to this day. That is nothing more than divide and conquer. The thousands of Protestant churches that you see today that teach and preach or whatever the hell they want, they are a product of the Jews' machinations to destroy Christianity through divide and conquer. Christianity has been destroyed to the degree that it is splintered today into so many different sects, which are nothing more than cults. Okay? If you're not part, and this is a fact, a historical fact, if you're not part of the true Christian Orthodox Church, you're part of a cult. Do you realize that? That is a 100% historical fact. Now, you may be sincere, you may love God if you're a Christian, and I'm sure you're a great person, and you do, but just so you know, you're part of a cult. That's all I'm trying to tell you. So if you'd like to learn about the true church, study Christian Greek Orthodoxy. Now, that's a huge subject, but, all you got to do is look at the fact that over the decades, many prominent Protestant leaders and Protestant churches have become Orthodox because they realize the Greek Orthodox Church is the first true, authentic, historical church. End of story. Now, are we perfect? No. And as I said previously, our own patriarch today has sold us out. He's part of the New World Order. Bartholomew from Constantinople. So we need a revival too. So we need you guys to help us in this effort, in this revival, by loving the Greek people, promoting them, their culture, their Orthodox faith, by buying Greek products, by going to visit Greece, by telling the Greek people, hey, you're beautiful people, you offered so much to Western culture and civilization, we love you, we support you, okay? By going and visiting an Orthodox church and learning about Orthodoxy, start that way. But, like I said before, Protestantism today is pretty much a byproduct of Jewish influence in Christianity that dated back at this era. When the Jews found out that they were going to, that Martin Luther had the intention of uniting the West and the East again, of uniting the Catholics with the Orthodox, they freaked out. So that's why they had to kill him. And that's why they then sent in their agent, John Cohen, better known as John Calvin, okay? He was a crypto Jew. John Calvin was a crypto Jew. To then co-opt Protestantism, to take it over, and to veer it away from the original intentions of Martin Luther. My point is, real Protestantism, ladies and gentlemen, is not the Protestantism that you see on Christian TV today with hallelujah and la 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 and blah blah blah. And with all these preachers asking you for money on TV and all this garbage. Okay? That is not Protestant Christianity. That's a cult. Wake up. So, real Protestant Christianity is nothing more than the attempt of Catholics to go back to Orthodoxy. End of story. That was what Martin Luther and his followers pretty much wanted. That was the goal there, ladies and gentlemen. Now, today there are remnants of Martin Luther. They're called the Reformers. And a lot of them believe in Orthodox doctrine. A lot of them don't. There's different variations of them. But they have some type of rapport with the Orthodox Church, but it's not to the degree that it should be. Okay? So, if you want real Christianity, discover Orthodox Christianity. That's all I'm trying to tell you. So, this is a long list, ladies and gentlemen, of the history of the Jews' influence. For example, in 1649, the bankers' Calvinist Cromwell Revolution Judaizes England. Now, here you have the 300 plus some odd period of expulsion of the Jews from England coming to an end. All right? Because Oliver Cromwell is now hired on by Oliver Cromwell from Orange is hired on by the Jews to help them basically take back England. In 1655, Cromwell reverses the edict of Edward I to readmit the Jews into England. Isn't that something? And ever since then, they have had the control of beautiful, wonderful, Christian, white England, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? The Rothschilds, of course, then take over the Bank of England in the 1740s. Okay? In 1776, Jew banker Hayam Solomon finances the American Revolution. Wow. And, the rest is history, ladies and gentlemen. The rest is history. So switching gears now, let's talk about a current news item in Greece. The number one agent, pretty much, of the Rothschilds in Greece, according to the mainstream news media, if you want to believe them, was just involved in a major, let's say, attack. His car basically exploded with a bomb in it, okay, a couple days ago, and he was injured and he was rushed to the hospital. So, let's give a little background first on this gentleman, quote unquote. Lucas Papademos. Okay, Lucas Papademos. Lucas Papademos was interim Prime Minister of Greece from the 11th of November 2011 to the 16th of May 2012. He is also a member of the Trilateral Commission, a globalist institution. For those who don't remember how he got elected as Greek Prime Minister in late 2001, well, he didn't, which was in itself a conspiracy against the Greek people. So how in the world can some dude just get elected, quote unquote, without elections? Well, as they say, the devil's found in the details. Just look at his career stage, and it will tell you just who he really works for. Okay? So, let's take a look at that. His work as an economist began, he's an economist, by the way. His work as an economist began in 1980. When he was appointed senior economist at the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. Yes, you heard that correctly. You're talking about a Greek-born individual, ladies and gentlemen, who basically was appointed to this position back in 1980 in Boston. That's huge. That tells you he comes from an elite Greek family. For him to get appointed to such a position of one of the 12 Federal Reserve Banks of the United States of America. So, let's continue. He joined the Bank of Greece in 1985 as its chief economist, rising to the rank of deputy governor in 1993. So, he finally became the Bank of Greece governor in 1994. During his time as governor of the Central Bank of Greece, Mr. Papademos was involved in Greece's transition from the drachma to the euro as its national currency. Okay? That's huge, ladies and gentlemen. That's huge. He played a major catalytic role in getting Greece to accept this wretched currency, which has helped to destroy Greece and the rest of Europe, of course, too, with regards to economic progress, economic growth, and so on and so forth. The euro has been a disaster. Okay, you can't force all these different economies in Europe, that operate on different levels to all use the same currency. That's retarded. That is ridiculous. Okay? And I remember back in 2002 when Greece first got it, immediately you had major inflation as a result across the board. It was insane. So let's see here. Mr. Papademos, he's worked for the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston, the Bank of Greece, okay? And he helped to spearhead the efforts with Kostas Simitis, the Prime Minister Kostas Simitis, in order for Greece to acquire the euro as its new currency. This took place in 1999. If you ask me, Mr. Lucas Papademos is nothing more than just another Ephialtes, okay, who throughout his whole career, he has worked as an enemy of the Greek people. Okay? He has worked for the enemy of the Greeks, who are nothing more than the Rothschild Jewish bankers. End of story. Okay? Now, do you really think they're going to allow this guy to get involved in some type of terrorist bomb attempt? Okay? So, anyway, who was, of course, Ephialtes? Ephialtes was the trader in ancient Sparta who went to the Persians and told them the position okay, of the Spartan army there in the pass of Thermopylae. Okay? He betrayed his own people, the Greeks, to the Persian people at that time. And that's why today his name is used as the word for nightmare in Greek. The word nightmare in Greek, Ephialtes, is his name. Okay, that's where the Greek word for nightmare comes from. So, there is obviously no sympathy for this bastard, Mr. Lucas Papademos. Now, all of the European media and American media are basically covering this story. For example, the German media.
In Athen ist offenbar im Auto des ehemaligen griechischen Ministerpräsidenten und Ex-Vize-Zentralbankchefs Lukas Papademos eine Bombe explodiert. Er selbst, sein Fahrer und eine weitere Person wurden ins Krankenhaus gebracht. Papademos sei verletzt, aber nicht in Lebensgefahr, berichten griechische Medien. Offenbar saß der Politiker hinten im gepanzerten Mercedes und sei dabei gewesen, seine Post zu öffnen.
Now, I kind of understood what they were saying there. Well, here's what the translation is. Apparently, a bomb exploded in the car. A former Greek Prime Minister and ex-Vice Central Bank Chief, Lucas Papademos. Well, he's the former chief of the National Bank of Greece. He himself and his driver, another person, were injured and, taken to the hospital, okay? But they we're not talking, though, about life-threatening injuries. Apparently, the politician was sitting in the back seat of his armored Mercedes and was about to open his mail, whereupon one of the letters exploded basically in his face. Okay, this is what they're saying. I mean, really? Do you really believe that, ladies and gentlemen? First of all of the top allies and stooges and agents of the Rothschilds, okay, are well taken care of. They're well protected. And it is always made sure that these people are never in harm's way, that no one would ever be able to basically attack them, quote unquote, or doing a terrorist attack, quote unquote, against them. Now, don't believe it. I don't believe it for a second. And the reason is because terrorism is part of the government. Terrorism is the government. The original word for terrorism, okay, you could look this up, it means the government is trying to pass a certain agenda to the wider public. That's what terrorism means. Yes, you heard that correctly. That's what terrorism means. Look it up. That's its original meaning. Now, when terrorism happens today, I know who's behind it. It's the government. The government's never going to allow some lone gunman or lone crazy nut go and try to blow something up or try to kill a politician. That doesn't happen, ladies and gentlemen. That's all BS. Why did this happen? If you want my opinion, here it is. And based on what's going on in Europe right now, you have the big Brussels meeting taking place. Trump is there. The Greek Prime Minister is there. Okay, this is all about NATO. Okay, you have all these other world leaders there. You have NATO now declaring it's going to get heavily involved in Syria. Okay, all right. And by the way, Trump met for the first time after so many months the Greek Prime Minister. Okay. Yeah, you heard that correctly. And not only that, he didn't meet with him officially, like in the White House or in some type of meeting room. He met with the Greek Prime Minister Alexis Tsipras outside of like the meeting hall there in Brussels. He met with him for like 5 minutes and patted him on the back. He said, "Oh, you're the Greek Prime Minister. Oh, nice to meet you. Ha ha ha, la la la, la la la, blah blah blah. Now get out of my face." That's what it was, right? Trump doesn't give a damn about Greece. He doesn't give a damn about the Greek people. If he did, he would have already spoken clearly on behalf of the Greek people with regards to the economic crisis, saying things like, "We have done evil and harm to the Greek people. We need to reverse all this," particularly in the case of the IMF. He has not said that, and he's not going to say that. Also, you have terrorist attacks taking place, terrorist attacks, quote unquote, in both New York and then, of course, a couple days ago over there in Manchester in England, which were all staged. All you got to do is go to the channel Russian Vids, that's one word. You'll learn the truth about all this garbage. Russian Vids is a friend of mine. He is one of the best channels on YouTube. Okay, he's very well known. We've put him on Greek TV several times. Okay, and he's just very revealing in his research. He'll tell you the truth about what just happened in Manchester, ladies and gentlemen. So you got all this stuff going on around the world. It's tying in, of course, with all these world leaders' efforts to solidify their new world order. I mean, hello, they're telling NATO now to go into Syria, for crying out loud. This is insane, ladies and gentlemen. All right? On top of all that, what just took place in Greece? There was just an agreement basically about the fourth memorandum to screw the Greek people again. And they did not get any type of guarantees from the IMF or from their partners in Europe for debt reduction. Not at all. So obviously they're fearing a backlash from the Greek people. Okay? Because they're about to screw them for the umpteenth time, whatever. So what do? They pull a little stunt. They send their little patsy to try to go blow up Lucas Papademos, a Rothschild agent in Greece. If that doesn't stink to high heaven, I don't know what does. And that ties in with what's going on in general around the world, and with all these world leaders pushing for their one world government. And now, of course, there's talk in Manchester about a police state being installed there. Aw, how convenient. This is John Contreras from Greek News On Demand. Visit our website, GreekNewsOnDemand.com. Thank you so much. God bless. And stay awake. I love you all. And my talk today was to encourage you, to reprove you, and to get you to realize, ladies and gentlemen, the value of the Greek people. And no way I'm trying to demean anyone with my talk, particularly about Protestant Christians. I'm just trying to get people to wake up. God bless, and I'll talk to you next time.